Thank you for coming. Today is about security deposit fund. This is it's a recorded webinar, so we are going to be able to post it later too. But I'm really thankful for people coming to see live, and also the questions. There is one person who is helping me with questions, so you can see MBCTR questions. So you can, in the meanwhile, while I'm talking, so you could type your question in the chat to the person who is in charge of the questions, or at the end, because there are not too many people, we could talk about it. The only thing about questions is I can't answer particular questions about a case. I'm a lawyer with the New Brunswick, with the Law Society of New Brunswick, and the Law Society don't allow me to answer publicly questions for particular cases, for questions of confidentiality. So you have a question, you can make it, and you make it in a way general, and I can answer, or we go directly by email for that particular question. So I'm going to start speaking from the Wall Street unseceded region. As I said, today we're going to talk about security deposit fund. So what is, what kind of amount, about what is allowed, what is not allowed. So I start. So when you can find this and the Residential Tenancy Act Section 8 following sections. When it's a security deposit is this is done at the beginning of the tenancy. So when you sign the contract, you make the deposit to the landlord. It's the main reason of the security deposit is a security to the landlord. So to security to the landlord, when the tenant's failure to pay rent, it is not a month in advance, and you are going to see how it works. It is called a security deposit. So I know that some provinces and some regions have a month in advance. This is not meant to be a month in advance. A security deposit is another figure. So the tenant's failure to reimburse the landlord for expenses incurred to heat, water, power, natural gas service, if not included in the rent. So you have a lease which is not include this, and the tenants don't pay that, so the landlord could reclaim that money from the security deposit. So late payment fee. So if we remember, or we saw in the webinar about payment fee and when people can pay late, it will be maybe a late payment fee. So even if the person pay, if the tenant pay later, so the security deposit can help to pay that fee. With the tenant's failure to comply with tenant's obligations. When we saw in the last webinar about obligations for tenants, we saw that there is a duty to maintain clean or repair shuttles like the microwave if it's negligence of the tenant. So it's important that if it's negligence of the tenant, is the tenant to repair. And if it's not repaired, so the landlord can claim that money from the security deposit. But so we see that could be some a debate here. So when that happens, I really recommend to go to the tribunal before is the dispute about the security deposit. If you see something that is broken at your house and it wasn't not the negligence due to the negligence of the tenant, or someone who was a guest for the tenant, for example, if you think that and you told the landlord to repair and the landlord didn't repair on time, you have evidence that you told him to tell her, So I recommend to go to complain to the tribunal. So you will have problem later with a security deposit. Other fees. What other fees are allowed to enter and continue in the lease? So when you enter in the lease, the fee, the normal fees, the rent, the security deposit, and a reasonable amount for any service provided in relation to the tenancy. Be careful with that, in relation to the tenancy. So when it's starting the contract, for example, administration fee for a building, these kind of things. So, and a reasonable amount. An administration fee can't be more than the rent, for example. What is not allowed? A prepayment of the last month's rent. As I said, the security deposit is not the last month's rent, it's a security deposit. A single rental payment that is greater than other regular rental payment in the lease. As I said, for example, the administration fee can't be over the regular rental payment. Another security deposit, just the security deposit you have to pay. And if you pay something like that, you have to be reimbursed. So how it works, you send your landlord a text message, an email. It's important this because it's important you have evidence that you are doing it, that you are talking and you are trying to fix the things before going to the tribunal. If you don't have an answer, a positive answer or an answer in a reasonable time, so I really, really recommend to go to the tribunal. So what is a security deposit fund? For the security deposit fund, each residential tenancy officer shall maintain a fund for security deposit paid to satisfy claims of landlords, credit and debit the tenant's account with amount received. Maintain separate account for each tenant. So the security deposit is for each tenant, and indicated the account, the name of the landlord with that tenant, the address of the premises, the address of where you live, the apartment or the house. The landlord of any person who receives the deposit shall deliver the deposit to the residential tenancy officer within 15 days. That is important. If the amount exceeds the permitted, the residential tenancy officer reimburses to the tenant the additional amount. A tenant may apply. So normally, the tenant and the landlord will receive a certificate for the security deposited by email. If you as a tenant don't receive between 3 and 4 weeks that email, I really, really recommend you apply for a certificate. With this certificate, you have to be really careful that have accurate data. That means have your correct name. If there are more than one person, for example, at a point I rented an apartment with my husband and both of us were in the lease, my husband and me. So the both name has to be accurate, and that is something that can happen mostly that can happen when you have a weird name like mine. For example, Jael, it's not a common name, or even if you have a common name, but that have different spellings, be really careful about have the correct spelling, the correct address, everything accurate, because if not, you will have problems after claiming your security deposit. So be careful with that. If it's not accurate, communicate to the tribunal and say, hey, this certificate is not accurate. I need this, you correct that as soon as possible. So what happens? How the landlord can reclaim the deposit? So when the termination of the tenancy, a termination of the tenancy we can see can be because 3 months in advance for a year lease, the landlord told you, I don't want to continue the lease, or week by week, 1 week before, month by month, 1 month before, and the termination of the tenancy. But the landlord normally by default, the security deposit is to the tenant to claim. But if the landlord wants to claim the deposit, they have to start a claim to the residential tenancy officer, tribunal, and the officer when start a proper investigation. Probably they're going to call you, they're going to call the tenants, what is happening here. and it's going to start the dispute. That is why I'm saying, if there is something that you feel, that you see that the landlord is not fulfilling their obligations, keeping clean, fixing the problems, it's better you complain first and not waiting until the landlord wants to claim the security deposit. So they have a time. So if the contract is week to week, the landlord has 7 days after the end of the week to claim the deposit. If it's another lease, month per month, year per year, 7 days after the end of the month in which tenancy is terminated. So what happens when there is a termination of the contract? When there is a termination of the contract, you can submit a claim. So the landlord can submit a claim against the security, and we saw what happens. If at the end of that claim, the tribunal allowed the landlord go to the money for the landlord, so you have the opportunity to go to the court. That could be another possibility if you don't agree with the decision of the tribunal. The other possibility, by default, as I said, is applying for the return of your security deposit. Each tenant a portion. As I said, it's normal a couple are bought in the lease. So each tenant, each part of the couple have a portion of the security deposit. And sometimes happens, and so it happened to me actually, that my husband claimed his security deposit, and after we saw, oh, I had to claim too, otherwise we wouldn't have a complete money. Or transfer a security deposit. So apply for the return of your security deposit. So you can apply online. So you can Google it, renting in New Brunswick, and apply to get your deposit online. And sorry, we had a call, went through it. Or you can go to the Service New Brunswick to apply in person, or you can send a printed digital copies for email or by fax. Also, what happens, you can apply on behalf of another person with a power of attorney. It could be if the person, for example, is not in the province anymore, or is not capable, there is a general power of attorney already, so this person is not capable to do it by themselves. If the person passes away, so you need a death certificate and a will, or you can do it with a death certificate and an indemnity letter when you say this person is absent. So that can be another possibility. You can also transfer a security deposit. So you transfer to another rental unit. So you ended your contract, you are going to another apartment, to another house. You can transfer that security deposit, is equivalent, or so you can do it online, by email, by fax, by mail, or in person service in New Brunswick. Or you can transfer to another tenant. So that happens when you want to, and that is really common in New Brunswick, because it's so difficult to end a contract for the tenant. So sometimes you pass your tenancy lease, you pass your lease to another tenant. So you can also transfer the security deposit. So the person who takes over the lease. So you complete the security deposit transfer for tenant form. It must be signed by both you and the landlord. When received, you have to, the Residential Tenancy Tribunal will update the tenant's file, and a new certificate deposit will go to the landlord and the new tenant. So that's it for today. Now I'm ready for your questions.
So once again, if you have any questions, you can send them in the chat to the NVCTR questions, and I will read them out to Jael. I'm not seeing any, Jael.
Me neither, me neither. I think I missed it. I don't know if I talked about the amount. Did I talk about the amount of the security deposit? Oh, there is one question there. Yep, you can talk. There is, unless she already sent the text. Yeah, I'm hearing. So you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, good morning. Well, thank you for the presentation. It was really informative. I do have a question.
Yep.
I used to live in a basement. I was renting a basement a year ago, and the landlady, she actually decided to renovate the basement. And she just told me that she was gonna renovate the kitchen that we had downstairs, but she decided to do a lot of things later, and that affected my health because of the dust and everything that was coming off of it. So in this case, what I did is I put a request to the tribunal, because I said I have to leave. I couldn't stay there, and it was the end of the month, and everything was paid off, but she did not return me my security deposit. So I asked the tribunal officer to check that, and they came back to me saying that she never deposited it. So in the first place, she never put the deposit. So they did the investigation. I'm not sure what they did, but they, in the end, they told me that I'm not gonna get back my security deposit.
So,
They
but
blamed it on me. Yeah.
so she didn't deposit, is that? And
Yes.
that is why you are not getting your deposit back.
Yes, and they also said that I went off without, and I actually did not serve the notice period because it was affecting my health. She was doing a lot of stuff that she did not disclose before. But the tribunal officer said that because I did not serve the notice period of 1 month before leaving, then that's the reason I wouldn't be getting back. But she, in the first place, she did not even deposit it. And in the second place, it was affecting my health. So I had to leave immediately. I couldn't stay.
So let me see if I understand well. First, she
Yeah.
didn't deposit, and after, when you complained, she made the deposit. But
I
you are
don't
not
know.
getting it back because she said that you left without making a notice. Is that?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. I don't know whether she deposited later or not, but she mentioned to me that I will not get it back because I did not stay there. And I couldn't stay there because I had a valid reason. I was not feeling well because of the work that was going on. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay. One thing is, yes, it is allowed for the tenant to terminate the contract when the health of the tenant is affected. That is allowed. So it's important that the tenant make a request to the tribunal before leaving. So you didn't do that, and that is something. But let me see. Yeah, the other thing is not depositing the security deposit, not giving to the tribunal is an offense. So I will say that that is important. That first, maybe you do a request to information, or you ask. You need to clarify if she made the deposit or not to the tribunal at the end. Because if she didn't make it, you can still go to the police finally. And yeah, because that is an offense. So you can go to the police if you are sure that the landlady, she didn't deposit, never. So that is an offense and you could go to the police. So because she has to do it. If she deposit and if she didn't, and so it will be weird, really. And if she didn't deposit, but still the tribunal decided that you are not allowed, you have your security back. So why are you not allowed? She didn't deposit neither. So and I think that will be something for a judge to see. because that will be a breaking of procedural fairness in a way. Yeah, it will be because yeah, why the tribunal decides something that is about the money that doesn't exist in the first place. So the money has to be there first, and that is an offense for a landlord when they don't deposit. So second, yes, you didn't, but they said, yeah, I was in the first slide when they said so. There is nothing here. So the security deposit is for these things. Tenant failure to pay rent, you always pay rent. Tenant failure to reimburse the landlord for expenses. No. So late payment fee. So they have to justify in these things, and you can see, maybe I can tell you the exact section where you can find the, yeah, it's, I'm gonna put in the chat. What is the chat? It's here. It's section 8.2. 8(2). So that is when it says what is the warranty for the, and so they have to justify really if it was that. When it was the decision, you know? The decision of the tribunal, which date?
Oh, it was like in 2020. There was a high time with COVID going on.
That was a lot, a long time ago. Yeah. Yeah, because,
so,
yeah, go ahead.
So I don't think I have an option to get that back anymore because it's been over a year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a long time ago. But I will say that this is still worth it to clarify. To clarify that you have two ways to do it. Because it's a money that maybe an email don't take too much of your time. And it will be, maybe you can have the money back, it will be great. So I will say, fight a little bit to see what happens. And you will not, at this moment, you already have this money. You are not counting with that money. So if you have it back, it will be good, I say. And so you could write an email to the tribunal saying, I would like to clarify if she deposited or not. If she didn't, so you go to the police still and saying, hey, I would like to make a complaint, a statement about this, after going to the tribunal again and saying, this is the, so I would like to clarify. If you can write to my email.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my email there, and you can keep me posted about if one day you wake up with with the courage to do something about it, and okay, I don't have any more thing to do, I maybe write an email, keep me posted about it.
Okay. All right, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're good to wrap up then, Jael.
Yes. So thank you for coming, and thank you for attending. And so this is, as I said, this is registered and recorded, and it will be shared by the Facebook group of the coalition too. Thank you for attending.